So, she'll just keep limping forward?
I guess so. I gave Professor Wagner my word I would keep going as far as I could. As far away from them as I could. We keep moving forward and we can keep that promise.
My tribe was never that sentimental.
It's not sentimentality to avoid being caught.
On the 50th anniversary of our births, our people are to end their own lives, so resources are available for the young and the strong.
As charming as this story's turning out to be, I think we'd better get moving. We've overstayed our welcome for the time being. Help me load up the
But not
gear.
everyone was willing to make the necessary sacrifices. We occasionally had to capture our parents or grandparents and carry out their duties for them. I remember looking at them with such disdain and embarrassment. How could they be so selfish?
Won't that be nice? Really, dear, I need some stronger arms than the ones I've got.
That was before my time with you. It is difficult to cling to life when you have not yet lived it. That was the joke our lives have played. Those who are closest to death are those with the most reason to go on. Those who have the most time ahead of them have no concept of its importance. No idea of the horrors and beauty they can unleash just by living.
This is all very fascinating, my dear, but do you remember those Keystone Time cops that have been chasing us? Well, we're sitting ducks here with the damages from that fallout with Gregor.
I ended my father's life. When I was choking the life out of him, I recall the look in his eyes. It was as though he had never known this was coming, even though he had done the same to his own grandfather. He compartmentalized his mind, as we all did. But in the face of his duties and the inevitability of our existence, those walls crumbled. He begged for me to allow him to limp onward. He could not see what was best for himself and everyone. When a person is that blinded by their own desires, it is their loved one's duties to make things clear.
Okay, well, we're getting in now. Morbid time is over, my dear.
I'm sorry.
That's all right. I know we've been through some rough times. My society's about 30% less genocidal, but I suppose that's progress. Remind me to tell you about the time I had my dog put down. Come on now. A few days in New Paris and you'll suppress all those feeling things.
I'm sorry.
No! Put that down!
Is time up for Skip and Morgana? Is the carriage going to see better days? Tell your friends to tune in to the next episode of The Time Carriage. But now, stay tuned for a climactic episode of Walker and O'Dare.
Good evening, radio fans, and welcome to another exciting episode of Walker and O'Dare, the story of Jimmy Walker, a thief trying to reform by becoming a private eye. When we last left our heroes, Jimmy had learned the terrible secret that his gal Friday, Trix O'Dare, had been keeping from him, a secret that might soon spell her own doom. Tonight's episode, a deal with the devil. But first, a word from our sponsor. Gentlemen, are overly sophisticated European-styled cigarettes bringing you down? Do you long for the simple American elegance and real masculine style pursed between your lips? Your friends at the Capone Company know just how you feel. Introducing Capone's An American Hero line of pure American tobacco cigarettes. The wizards at the Capone Company have managed to pack all of that wide-eyed patriotic hope and pride you remember from when you were a kid, sneaking your father's cigarettes, and allow you to pass the tradition on to your own sons. Not this time, Billy. I only have one pack left to give proof through the night. The Capone Company, again, has no affiliation with Al Capone or the United States federal government, the bunch of no-good coppers. Previously on Walker and O'Dare.
Beatrice, I know about Carrie Brooks.
No. Nobody knows about Carrie Brooks. Major!
From what I can tell, Miss O'Dare's tale of woe began on the night of June 23rd, 1930.
That was the night that we met.
He'd kill me, Trix. He said as much. There was another girl before me, and they never found her.
What do you think you're doing?
The Ryan girl couldn't have shot Caspari. She wouldn't have had the nerve. But Miss O'Dare would have.
Trix!
Our story opens in a courthouse in New York.
Order! I will have order in the court!
Objection, Your Honor. Counsel is badgering the witness.
I've already been granted permission to treat this witness as hostile.
Objection overruled. Proceed, Mr. Bartram.
Thank you, Your Honor. Miss O'Darella, you've testified before this court that you willfully entered the victim's room with the intention to kill him and the means to do so on the night of June 23rd, 1930.
Sure, I shot Johnny. But if I hadn't, he would have killed my friend.
So you've said, and yet you have been unable to produce a single shred of evidence to support your story. How is it you are the only one who even remembers the existence of this Tipper Ryan, who appears in no record as ever having worked at the Stratus Club?
Little Eddie and the others are lying. They knew Tipper, and they knew what that monster was doing to her. And not one of them was man enough to stop it.
Can you produce this, Miss Ryan?
I told you. I haven't seen her since that night. I got no idea where she is. She was smart to make herself scarce.
You also made yourself scarce that night, in order to avoid arrest.
Yes, I did, but only because...
Because you knew that you had killed a man in cold blood. That no one would believe your story, your ridiculous story about protecting some imaginary friend that justice would find you.
No, I ran because I just shot the biggest goon in the rackets. The guy who had half the judges and DAs in this city in his pocket. And there ain't no justice in our town run by guys like you!
Action! Read all about it! Singer tried for gangster's murder! DA wants the chair for the Stratus Club killer! Action!
Here, kid, give me a paper.
Here you are, mister!
How does it look?
Let's see. Beatrice Odarello, alias Trix O'Dare, was unrepentant at her cross-examination, skillfully conducted by Harry T. Bartram, rising star of the district attorney's office. Odarello admitted to shooting John Vincent Caspari, purveyor of local nightclub, at the night of June 23, 1930. The defendant has made numerous unsubstantiated claims that the crime was committed to protect a friend of hers, woman she insists was having a romantic liaison with the victim. The assertion is strongly contested by the victim's friends and family, who contend that he was a dedicated family man. Miss Odarello's wild claims are unlikely to win her the sympathy of the jury or the judge in her case. The Honorable Mufflin Hangham High Caulfield?
Oh dear.
Oh, well, the press certainly has it in for her.
That DA, Bartram, is planning to ride this case up the ladder. I hear he's to run for city council sometime next election. A high-profile conviction will make his career.
Yeah, but what did she ever do to deserve this reputation that she's getting from the reporters in this town? In every article I read, they're practically ready to string her up themselves.
That paper is backing Bartram's bid for the council seat.
Oh, figures.
Yes, I'm afraid there are all too many people who benefit from Miss O'Dare's misfortune.
If only I could find Tipper. She'd at least get Trix out from under the gallows. But it's been 2 years, and the trail's gone cold.
And she wanted to disappear.
Hey, what did your friend at City Hall say?
He said that they were able to trace a woman they think was Miss Ryan as far as Cincinnati. Where she went after that is anyone's guess.
And Tipper's not even a real name. Who knows what she calls herself now?
She didn't have any family either, unless you count Miss O'Dare.
I'll go in. I'll give evidence. I'll say that I saw what the creep did. I could at least vouch that Tipper existed.
I doubt the testimony of a sneak thief who became the defendant's lover would cut much ice in this court. Besides, I need hardly remind you that you are still wanted for questioning from the last time you were in this country. Speaking of which, perhaps we should get back to the safe house. If you are recognized out here, the game is well and truly up.
Unlikely to gain her the sympathy. Cyclone Jones.
I beg your pardon?
The guy who wrote this article. He's the kid who was with me at the club the night that Caspari was shot. Of course. He was looking for a story, and man, did he find it. This'll make his career.
Well, good for him, but what does it get us?
Well, I'll bet you that he's been all over this case from the start. I'll bet you that he knows more than what's printed in this article. Maybe even has a line as to what happened to Tipper. If nothing else, it'll give me someone to vent my frustrations on.
New York Bulletin Press Office. Mr. Jones isn't here. May I take a message? And what name shall I give? Thank you. Goodbye.
Hey, Cyclone, where's the fire?
Can't tell you, Riley. You'd steal my story.
Cyclone!
What is it, Janie?
Message for you. Some guy called up, said he knew you. Said to tell you to meet him underneath the apple boughs.
Apple boughs. He leave a name?
Yeah, he said to tell you it was Mr. Spectre.
Mr. Spectre? Jimmy.
What'd you say, Syke? I couldn't hear you.
Nothing. Thanks, Janie. I gotta head out and I won't be back in the office today. If that caller calls back, tell him I'm on my way.
Your friend is late.
Well, if he got my message, he'll be here. Ask who it is.
Who's there?
I have a message for Mr. Spectre.
Open the door.
I'm looking for Jimmy.
Hey, not so loud. Come in. Shut the door behind you.
Good to see you, Jimmy. What are you doing back in New York? They're still looking for you on account of the Westchester job.
Yeah, never mind that now. I'm afraid this isn't a social visit, kid. I need your help.
Well, sure, Jimmy. Anything I can do. You know that.
How much do you know about the Kaspari murder case?
I'm all over that case, Jimmy. Ask me anything. I'm the guy that broke the story. Staff reporter now, thanks to you.
You think she's got a chance?
The Autorello girl? Not bloody likely. She isn't even claiming innocence. She makes for great copy, though. We can't print them fast enough the way people are buying them up. You should have seen her in court today.
Hey, shut up, you vulture.
Yipes. Jimmy, what's the matter with you?
Control yourself, Walker. The boy doesn't know.
What don't I know? What'd I do?
Mr. Walker has a deep personal interest in the outcome of this case, Mr. Jones. Suffice it to say, his sympathies lie with the defense.
What?
It's a long story, kid, but the short version is your newspaper articles are gonna help hang my girl.
You and the Autorello girl? Jimmy, she's a killer.
Her story's true, Syke. She did have a friend there, and that Kaspari guy was mistreating her. Trix had to do what she did. A life was at stake.
I know.
What?
Well, maybe not all of it. I knew there was another girl there, despite what everyone testified, but I never found out more than that.
Well, then why didn't you print it? Or better yet, take it to the police?
Because I was told not to. Not to investigate, not to print it, to forget everything I had heard.
Why? And who told you to forget it?
Orders came right from the top, Jimmy. It didn't sit right with me, but when it looked like she was guilty anyway, I figured I'd let it go.
You're a reporter, for crying out loud. You're supposed to get at the truth.
That's what I thought too. Once. But the newspaper games its own racket. My job isn't to get the truth. It's to get the story. Whichever one will sell the most papers.
And supports whatever political faction your employer favors.
That too.
So you'd send a girl to the gallows just to sell a few lousy copies of your rag?
No. But I might send a murderess. She hasn't once said she didn't do it. She only pleaded not guilty so she could tell her story and maybe get the court to let her cop to a lesser charge. But the DA has already said he won't take the plea. He has her dead to rights. She put 3 holes in the guy, Jimmy.
Yeah, what would you know, you sniveling
That's
little...
enough, Walker. Mr. Jones raises a valid point. Miss O'Dare has committed a crime and deserves punishment. However, as a man of the law myself, I cannot agree that a death sentence would be justice in this case. There are mitigating factors here, and if we're going to prove them, we need to find Tipper Ryan.
I think I know someone who might be able to help you, but you're not going to like it.
Who?
When I said the orders came from the top, I mean to the very top.
Who?
George Herbert Crest.
Good heavens!
G.H. Crest? What's he got to do with it?
He owns the paper I work for. In fact, he owns most of the major papers across the country. Nothing gets printed without his okay, not a single word. And if he tells you to forget something, you forget it.
But why would he want to railroad Trix? What's he got against her?
Probably nothing. Not that I asked. It's just how we sell newspapers.
Hold it. You mean he personally told you not to investigate this?
This story made me, Jimmy. I'm the golden boy now. Big fat raise, my own office. I can cover almost any story I want. Almost. I wrote up a column that included some facts about the Ryan girl. He called me into his office, offered me a drink, and then very nicely, very politely told me it wouldn't be published and I should write something else. I took the hint.
That's all he said?
That's all he had to say. When Crest takes a liking to you, you smile and say thank you. You don't push your luck.
And you think that he knows where Tipper is?
I bet he could find out if he wanted to. It's not easy to hide from him.
I think Mr. Crest and I need to have a little talk.
Are you crazy? You don't just walk up to G.H. Crest and start making demands.
I concur. If half the things I've heard about Crest are true, it would be very unwise to underestimate him. He's extremely wealthy and well-connected and has the power that comes with such things. He's not afraid to use it either.
What's he going to do to me? Ruin my reputation? I'm a thief.
How long would you last if you put your picture on the front page? Would you ever work again after that? And that's not all. You got enemies, Jimmy. Not just John Law, either. How many guys out there would like to settle a score with Jimmy the Ghost if they knew where to find him? That's what Crest does to people. I've seen it happen.
I'm afraid Mr. Jones is correct. Going up against Crest directly is foolhardy and pointless. There's no way to threaten a man like Crest, no way to bully or intimidate him. He's untouchable and he knows it. But even if we can't hurt him, we might be able to tempt him.
What do you mean?
Crest makes his millions selling good stories. An unrepentant murderess hanging for a gangster's death is a good one. But what if we offered him a better one?
Like what?
Listen carefully. I have an idea.
That very evening, in the penthouse of George Herbert Crest.
Yes, Miss Martindale.
Washington on line 2, Mr. Crest.
Thank you. That'll be all for today. Hello, Frank. Good to hear from you. I see you put that campaign contribution to good use. Who? For Secretary of State? Oh, no, Frank. I don't see him as a Secretary of State. Maybe Secretary of the Interior, perhaps, but not State. Yes, give him that. I think that's best. Oh, my. I'll have to call you back, Frank. I've just had company drop in. Goodbye. Well, young man, it's not every day someone is intrepid enough to come into my office via the window, especially considering we're 100 stories up. I suppose you deserve some consideration based on that alone.
I know that you're a busy man, Mr. Crest. I don't want to take up too much of your time, but a friend of mine is in a tight spot, and I need you to take a look at this.
Let me see. Young Jones wrote this. Very interesting. So this is about the Odorello case?
Well, it's a different take on the story, one that happens to be true.
Yes, well, sadly that does very little to increase its value to me. I already have an angle on this story. I don't need another, and in my business it's never a good idea to admit that you were wrong.
Not even for a dramatic courtroom switch?
How do you mean?
What if someone could prove that they were there that night, that they saw everything, perhaps even that they had done it?
Are you confessing, Mr.
Walker. Jimmy Walker.
So you're the ghost.
You've heard of me.
Yes. And that you were mixed up in this somehow. I make it my business to know many things about all sorts of people. Knowledge, as you know, is power, Mr. Walker. And he who controls other people's knowledge possesses the greatest power of all. Can I offer you a drink?
Not to be unsociable, but I'm not thirsty, Mr. Crest.
Pity. It's good stuff. No? Suit yourself. Well, it's clear what you intend to do, or at least try. Waltz into that courtroom, take the blame, and save your lady fair. You're willing to lie and even sacrifice yourself, and that makes you a very dangerous man.
Yes, but it also makes for a very interesting story.
Indeed it would, but even less true than what's already in print. She must be quite a girl.
She is. Mr. Crest.
Who coached you?
What?
It's the third time you've called me Mr. Crest in under a minute. It sticks in your throat, all this bowing and scraping. You should see yourself right now. You think you're putting up a front, but you're the very picture of working-class umbrage.
All right. Fine, then. You want the real rundown? Here it is. Guys like you make me sick. Here you sit, fat and greasy, while somebody who's worth 12 of you takes the rap for doing the world a favor. Something that took more guts than you got or ever will have.
Oh, my. You are dangerous.
You bet I am. Sorry I'll be wrecking your pretty little story, Crest. But I'm about to write one of my own, and I don't need your help to do it. I'm done wasting my time here.
Not so hasty now, Jimmy. You don't mind if I call you Jimmy, I hope.
Knock yourself out.
It's been a long time since someone tried bravado with me. Sit down.
I'd rather stand.
Contrariness is something I dislike. You scored a point just now. Don't overdo it. Sit down. That's better. Now we can talk like civilized people.
All right, then. Let's talk.
Just how badly do you want this what's-her-name off the hook?
More than you've ever wanted anything.
How poetic. You're willing to put your life on the line, that much is obvious, but there are worse things to lose than one's life.
I can agree with you there.
Some people value their reputations, others their wealth, what power they might have. A few value honor or even love. I suppose you fall into that category.
I never thought of it that way.
Start thinking of it that way, and remember that love is very difficult to enjoy if you're not present to enjoy it. What else do you value, Jimmy?
Right now, there's only one thing on my mind.
How very unfortunate for you. That means you're not thinking. And that's when people tend to make mistakes. You came here to ask me something, ask it.
Mr. Crest, I need to find Tipper Ryan. I need to get her back here to New York so she can testify and hopefully keep these maniacs from hanging Trix.
Even that won't keep her out of prison.
I know.
You'd be condemning her to a life without freedom, certainly a life without you. Think hard on this. There are so many things worse to lose than your life.
I can't just let them kill her. I just can't. Please, help me find Tipper Ryan.
Well, Jimmy, I have to say I'm dissatisfied.
Whoa! Get down! It's gotta go dark in here.
You do realize that was a Tiffany lamp you just broke?
The shooter was using it to see us. Would you rather that he still could?
He seems to have stopped.
Well, that was a long-range rifle. He's too far to see us without the light on, and it's too dark in here for him to aim. That being said, I wouldn't mind getting away from these windows.
Make your way past the desk and towards the fireplace.
There's another exit?
Yes, and it would behoove you not to mention it to anyone after tonight.
My mind's a blank. We'll have to crawl along the floor. All right. Here's the fireplace. What now?
See the little diamond shape carved into the woodwork?
Kinda.
Press it in.
All right. A secret door, huh?
Yes, and a room with no windows for occasions just like this one.
Suits me. All right. Looks like we're in the clear. Where's the light switch?
Wait till the door shuts. All right, then I'll switch on the lights.
Handy you have this place.
Well, a man in my position makes enemies. It's best to be prepared. The question is, was it my enemies or yours that shot at us just now?
Well, my guess would be mine. Before she left Paris, somebody took a pot shot at Trix with a long-range rifle. I don't believe in coincidence.
Neither do I, but in this case, your enemy may have done you a favor.
Really?
Truth is, Jimmy, while you do impress me, I was about to tell you to shove off. I've heard too many earnest, hopeless sob stories in my time to give them much credence, but someone tried to make up my mind for me a moment ago, and that I cannot allow. Plus, I don't care who you are trying to kill. You don't take a shot at my window. For the time being, Jimmy, your enemies are my enemies.
Glad to hear it, Mr. Crest.
Are ya? Well, I wouldn't be too sure this is all for the best. You may look back at this moment and wish that shot hadn't been fired, that I'd sent you packing. You may even wish the bullet had hit you. But let me make one thing very clear. The first favor may be free. But after that, you pay.
A few nights later, in the holding unit at the municipal building across from the courthouse, a single figure can be seen sitting in a cell at the end of an empty corridor. Moonlight from a lonely window at the opposite end of the hall casts long shadows across the face of Trix O'Dare.
You're entitled to have the radio on for a little while if you'd like.
Thanks, Matron. But the quiet might be nice for a bit.
It's not typical for prisoners to be held here during a trial, but with the case being so prominent, the higher-ups thought it'd be better to have you here.
That and it's cheaper than schlepping me back and forth from the house of detention.
True enough. Good night, Odorello.
Night, Matron. There's no sun up in the sky. Stormy weather since my man and I ain't together.
Keeps raining all the time.
Jimmy,
Hi, kid. How you holding up?
are you insane? What are you doing here?
I had to see you.
Some crook you are. Who breaks into jail?
It's nice to see you, too.
Oh, I didn't mean it that way, baby. It's just... Oh, what are you thinking, you lunatic? You'll get caught. I can't have that, Jimmy. I'd never forgive myself.
Shh. Keep your voice down and answer my question. How you doing?
I'm all right, Jimmy. I need you to know something, though.
What?
It's true, Jimmy. It's all true, what they're saying about me. I should have told you. I know I should have.
I should have told you everything.
You hear that? That's the sound of no one disagreeing with you.
I wanted to, countless times, but I never could. I didn't want to lose you.
You wouldn't have.
I know that now. Oh, Jimmy, do you think you can forgive me? That's the only thing in the world I want right now. For you to forgive me.
All day long, baby.
Thanks. I need that. I can do anything now that I know that. Now please, baby, go and get as far away as you can and go someplace safe and be happy and find somebody
Whoa. I didn't come here for that. No, kid. I got news. Good news, really.
What's happened?
We found Tipper. We found her and we told her what's been going on. She's been living out west, so she didn't hear about the trial. She's coming here to testify. I've already spoken to your lawyer, and she's got proof of her story too. Letters, photos of her and Johnny, the works. She had someone send her stuff along when she left New York, and she didn't throw away anything. Smart girl.
Jimmy, how on earth did you do it? My lawyer said it was like she fell off the face of the earth.
Well, it's a long story, but it doesn't matter right now. All that matters is that she can prove what you're saying is true.
I can't believe it.
Conway's picking her up at the station right now.
Conway's here?
Yeah, he's the only way I knew where to look for you. Now keep your chin up. We're not down for the count yet.
Yeah. Thanks, Jimmy.
You know, I know it doesn't get you off the hook completely, but let's climb one mountain at a time, okay?
Okay.
I just need you to trust me.
I do trust you, Jimmy. And I'm so grateful to you. But I need you to promise me something.
Anything.
I need you to promise that you won't wait. That you won't put yourself in danger. When it looks like, if it looks like, it's all up with me. That you'll get out of town and not come back.
Trix.
I'm ready to face the music, Jimmy. But I can do that a lot better knowing you're safe. Will you do that for me? Please?
I promise.
Thanks, Jimmy.
But I get to say when it looks like the game is up and I'm in danger. That's my call. I leave when I lose hope and not a moment before. And I don't intend to give up on you. Don't think for a second that I am.
You're really lousy at promises, you know that?
Well, take it or leave it, baby.
I'll take it. All day long. There's another thing you really should know, Jimmy.
What?
Oh, you must think I got some nerve. Me trying to reform you.
I have to admit, in light of recent events, you seem unqualified for that.
Truth is, I never wanted to reform you. Not really. I didn't want you to change a bit.
Well, when we get you out of this, it'll be my turn to set you on the straight and narrow. No more killing deranged mob bosses, no matter how much they deserve it. Truth is, I always figured it would be me on the wrong side of the bars.
For what it's worth, I'm glad it's not.
You know, that's a pretty old lock on the cell door. I bet I could pick it easy enough.
I know.
It's a little tricky getting from the window to the roof, but it can be done, and I could help you.
I'm sure you could.
But it wouldn't make any difference, would it? We wouldn't get far. It would only be a question of time before we...
Jimmy, you should go now. Please, dearest.
In a minute.
Right this way, Miss Ryan.
Actually, it's Mrs. Church now.
Is your husband coming too?
My husband passed away 6 months ago.
Oh, I'm sorry. Here, have a seat.
Thank you.
Doesn't look like we were followed from the train station. Did you notice anyone on the train who may have been watching you?
I don't think so. I followed your instructions you sent. I switched cabs, getting to the station, and changed my clothes when I got on the train.
Good. With any luck, that did the trick. We have an appointment with Miss O'Dare's lawyer in the morning. Until then, I think it's safe we remain here. Jones, one of us should be awake at all times to keep an eye on things.
Good idea. I'll take the first watch.
Wake me in 3 hours. Mrs. Church, can I be of any assistance to you before retiring?
No, thank you, Major. I'm all right.
Very well. Good night then.
Mrs. Church, I want you to know I really admire what you're doing.
Thanks. It's Mr. Jones, isn't it?
You can call me Psych. I just think it's the bravest thing I've ever seen.
That's sweet. It isn't, though. Not really. I owe her this and more. Part of me always knew that this wasn't over, that the past would come back.
How do you mean?
Even after I heard Johnny was dead, I knew that something like this would happen. He told me if I ever left him, he'd make me pay. He's gonna keep his promise now, one way or another.
That's not true, Mrs. Church. He can't hurt you anymore.
Look what all this has done to Carrie. I mean, Trick. She had the nerve to do what I couldn't. Now he's making her pay.
Mrs. Church, That's gotta be Jimmy. Hold on a sec. Who's there? Ah!
What the devil?
Shot me through the door!
Major, get down!
Shut off the lights! Stay down. Keep silent.
I know you're here.
Halt! In the name of His Majesty's military police, turn around and slowly and face me. Good heaven, what are you?
Look out!
Mrs. Church, run!
Major!
Turn on the light. Turn it on. Look at me.
I knew it. Somehow I just knew. Well, what are you waiting for?
I had a feeling I'd be seeing you sooner rather than later.
Tipper Ryan is dead.
Pity. That rather upsets your plans.
Someone knew that she was in New York, knew where I had her stashed. She wasn't in the city an hour before someone put a hole in her. Someone she knew.
Is that so?
2 friends of mine were with her. They both tell the same crazy story about a guy in a mask knocking in the door, pumping lead into both of them, and shooting Tipper. One of them swears that she recognized her killer, somehow. She hardly seemed surprised.
All very interesting, but I don't see what it has to do with me.
Somebody's been one step ahead of me this whole time, and it's not hard to figure out how. You've been playing both ends against the middle on this case from the start. Either you or someone in your organization spilled the beans about Tipper. Maybe there was a reason for it. Maybe it was just for your own amusement. But it's fair bet that you know who killed her, and I want to know that too.
You're not entirely wrong. I can't give you a name, but I can tell you where to start looking.
Well, why don't you start with that then?
Why should I? What's in it for me?
You said last time that we spoke that the first favor was free and after that I would pay? Well, you wouldn't have even bothered saying that unless you believed that I could pay. You tell me what I want, and we'll make a deal.
Very astute of you. Jimmy, to tell you the truth, someone with your skills could be invaluable to me if I could be certain of your obedience and loyalty.
I had a feeling we were coming to this. Let me guess. I get you something you want, and you tell me how to find Tipper's killer. Is that it?
I'm afraid it wouldn't be as easy as that. I did not become what I am today by playing fair.
So
I always get more than I give.
So how long would I have to work for you?
Until it served my purposes for you not to work for me.
Well, that might be quite a while.
Yes. But tell the truth. You'd do anything to save her, wouldn't you?
You'd better believe it.
Ah, well. As is so often the case, the source of your greatest strength is also your greatest weakness. I'd expected more from you, Jimmy. You talk the patter of a jaded opportunist, but you're as sentimental as any schoolboy, and yet, for some reason, I like you. And because I like you, I'm going to give you one last chance to turn around and walk away. Right now. Later will be too late. No? Have it your way. But remember this later on. Remember that I warned you.
I'll remember it.
Indeed you will. Well, let's talk about where you'll start.
Will this bargain save Trix from the gallows? What plans does the nefarious Mr. Crest have for our heroes? Find out in our next episode, The Bitter End. And now, ladies and gentlemen, the moment you have all been waiting for. We will now select 2 people from our studio audience to participate in our trivia challenge and test their knowledge of current events and recent history. For those of you who are listening at home, Katie has in her hand a hat that is filled with the names of the people in our studio audience, and one of my castmates is about to make the selection.
And the contestants are Jane Thim and James Throckmorton.
All right. These will be multiple choice questions. After the question is read, the first one of you to ring this bell here will be given the chance to answer it.
Come across the room.
Yes. You'll have 5 seconds to do so. So there are 3 questions, and whoever answers the most correctly wins the secret prize. We'll begin, of course, with question number 1.
Can we solve questions, maybe?
Yes.
I want to see the answers. All right. These are multiple choice. In 1920, the 18th Amendment to the Constitution was enacted, banning the sale and manufacturing of this substance. A, opium, B, alcohol, or C, bleach. That is correct.
I never had the alcohol.
And now for the next question.
On May 20th, make sure that bell's able to see. On May 20th, 1932, she became the first woman to fly solo nonstop across the Atlantic. A, Josephine Baker, C, Carrie Nation, or B, Carrie Nation, sorry, and C, Amelia Earhart.
C, Amelia Earhart.
That is correct.
And now for the tie-breaking question.
Published in 1920, This Side of Paradise sold out of its first printing in 3 days and was the first published novel by this author. A, F. Scott Fitzgerald, B, Ernest Hemingway, C, Thomas Wolfe.
B, Ernest Hemingway.
Oh, I'm sorry, that is incorrect.
A.
And what else you want, you ask, but these 6 tickets in my pocket, which are free landmark passes. 6 free landmark passes.
Thank you.
And now it's time for a 10-minute intermission.